Hello, Ni Hao. Welcome to Dynamic Leadership Management MGT 601. So I'm your learning facilitator. I'm based in Sydney in Australia. I look forward to hopefully coming back to China again and meeting you someday. Please have a look at the introductory video and you'll see a little bit about my background and where I have been in China. Right now, I'm just going to walk you through the first slide set of so module 1.1, so week 1 of this class, Dynamic Leadership. And some of you are already in formal leadership positions, but I want you to think about you as a leader. Everybody is a leader. We all have a leadership journey. We all influence others. As a teacher, I have some influence, but you are also my teachers. I'm learning from you, and therefore you are leaders, whether you identify as a leader or not. So in this class, we're actually going to look at your leadership journey until now, where we are now, and how we might step forward and develop our confidence and our competence as leaders in the future. Okay, so I think I'll just walk down this way. So our, that's a good one. We'll just go back to that previous slide. Okay, so our program for this first session, when we have our live class, and I will be online on Wednesday evening at 6:30 your time. It'll be 9:30 our time. Hopefully we can connect up. In the meantime, I just wish you all a very happy National Day holiday. Usually I'm in China or have been in China many times for National Week, and my wedding anniversary on the 1st of October. So usually we get a week's holiday for that, but I was teaching this week, not to worry. So introductions, so in the live class we'll be having introductions, and you can also go onto the discussion forum and introduce yourself. We will be looking at our learning goals, the subject design and philosophy for this class, delivery schedule, learning resources, look at the assessments briefly, and then get into leadership definitions. So for now, it's really important that you go into the subject in Blackboard and you have a look around, you have a look at your assessment briefs. I will be giving you detailed assessment checklists, PowerPoints, and we will go through those very thoroughly. And in the live classes, you have the opportunity to ask questions, and expect you to be lively and to be having some input into those live class sessions. I don't lecture, we are having a dialogue, a conversation with each other. Okay, so expect you to be able to give me lots of information as well. So I'm Dr. Fleur Fallon. This is my email, but please go into my class messages on Blackboard to send me any messages so that we can keep all the correspondence for this in one place within the subject. If whenever you send me a message via my class messages, I actually get a notification in my general email, so I won't miss it that way. If you send it in the general email, I may miss it. You can also, if you have some general questions, ask the facilitator in the discussion forums, okay? So I'll be wanting you to introduce yourself briefly, say like, my name is Fleur Fallon. Please call me Fleur. Fleur is not an English name, it's a French name, it means flower. I believe that's hua in Chinese. All right, so please call me Fleur. The course that you are doing, so of course it's a MBA program. You're at different stages of that. And which city, which province are you in? So I'm in Sydney, which is in the state of New South Wales in Australia. We'll want you to be thinking about, and you can go into in the discussion forum, introduce yourself. Just tell me what your first degree is. You'll see my introduction there. So I've said my first degree is actually a Bachelor of Arts with majors in philosophy and peace studies. I did an honours dissertation on world citizenship values, and then I went on to do a PhD on tourism development in the context of sustainability. I've been an academic for about 20 years, but before that, I hate to say it, was nearly another 20 years, was in human resource management in private enterprise, multinational organizations, government, and also private organizations. I was considered a leader at school. I was a prefect. I was captain of a couple of sports teams, and it was always expected that I would do good. And so as a teacher, I always see myself as a leader, even though I may not have formal supervision responsibilities for other people. I look upon my students as being in my care and control. So I want to hold your hand, lead you over the bridge of learning for dynamic leadership. So current industry for me is higher education and based in Sydney. All right. So put those details into the introductions in the discussion forums. So looking at our demographics, just looking at the implications for building a diverse learning community. So basically you are, I think most of you are mainland Chinese, but you have come from different professional experiences and different industries. Your different age cycles, so some are in their 20s, some maybe in their 30s, and some are in their 40s, and you know, with significant leadership experience. So how can we ensure maximum learning? So I need to mix up, so it shouldn't just be one industry or two people from the same industry in the same age talking to each other. We need to have a little bit more depth and breadth in that. So we'll come to that, especially talking in our first class sessions. Okay, I've asked you in the discussion forum 1.1 to actually write down who would you like to have as your boss and why. Consider the characteristics of that real life person, or it may have been a person who has passed away since. Why do you think he or she would make a perfect boss? It might be your parents, it might be your uncle, it might be a teacher, it might be a politician, it might be an artist, an author. But who do you think would make the perfect boss? For me, I would think to have someone like Barack Obama or his wife Michelle as my boss would be really very nice, because I think they're very warm people, very caring, and they obviously very skilled in the lawyer background, but they also have a warmth and empathy, and they have a fantastic sense of humor as well. So they can be really down to earth and inspiring, and they're not shouty people. So by that I mean they're not loud, but they're kind, they're witty, they're wise, and I'm sure we'd have some really interesting discussions. So who would you like to have as your boss? Maybe at your dinner table, somebody that you can see every day and get on really well with, and be able to share tough things with them as well as the good times as well. Write your response in discussion forum 1.1, and we'll discuss it in the live class too. So we have five learning outcomes. So 5 learning outcomes to build your self-awareness and self-development as a leader. By reflecting on key leadership theories, you'll develop a personal leadership development strategy. What speaks to you about what it means to be a leader? And we will look at a couple of different models for leadership development as well. How can you improve on your abilities to influence others, to inspire others, whether it's in the workplace or community or even family as well? How can you practice coaching, getting better at enhancing self-awareness and skills of emotional intelligence? That's understanding yourself, controlling yourself, and being able to read others and being able to step into their shoes and really listen to the other person without judgment, but supporting them in their journey as well. So we developed this reflexive practice for continuous learning and self-development. The reflexive practice is about looking not only at what you have done in the past, but reflecting on practice or in practice as you are doing things. So of course, I'm constantly adjusting to what's happening now. So hopefully this is recording. I can just see a small thumbprint, so I can see myself, plus I can see the screen, and I can also see the slides that are just the previous ones and the ones that are coming up. Hopefully I'm not speaking too fast for you, but it will tune your ear, and if you have the opportunity to listen to this a few times. So our philosophy is developing you, so the focus is on you. Leadership is a way of thinking and behaving. It's not just a position up there. Everyone is a leader. And a leader is someone who sees something that needs to be done and steps up to do it without being asked. So it's taking initiative, it's caring and supporting others, it's influencing others. So you need to think about being a leader on the cognitive, intellectual level, as well as the affective, emotional level. What's going on in your heart, okay? So there is a lot more being written today about spirit and love and compassion, all those soft things in the workplace that were kind of a no-no yesterday, but we're allowing more of that positive energy and the emotions into the workplace these days. After all, we spend, at least a third or more of our life in the workplace or thinking about work. So it should be fun. So effective leaders have a high sense of self-awareness. They're authentic. So authentic, we need to be careful here because we talk about authenticity being ourselves, being genuine, but sometimes like your immediate interactions in the workplace or what would normally happen may not be appropriate. So we have to be careful of that. We have a work self and we have a non-work self, maybe a little bit different, but what overflows, how can we truly express ourselves and not be robots in the workplace? Strategic is looking forward, thinking forward. We need to have levels of cultural sensitivity towards each other and gender sensitivity as well. And as a leader, how can we be initiators of change? How can we improve our awareness and our skills of being emotionally intelligent? What are our values? So you will look at our values, we'll look at our strengths. How can you have influence on others? There are tough times as well. So how can you be resilient and optimistic, hopeful about the future, and support creativity and innovation, not only in yourself, but those around you as well? So some leaders are very fearful, and they want to only surround themselves with people who are not as competent as them. They want to have yes people but the best leaders will actually select people who have much better skills than them in different areas and be complementary to them. So a leader should be able to pull together a lot of different skills and strengths. So our schedule, so initially looking at your journey, where have you come from, and your self-image, how do you identify as a leader? Then looking to the future, so we're looking at the past first, then we're looking to the future, and thinking about some different scenarios. How can you step up to be a leader in a stronger, more confident way in the future? How do you actually go about influencing and motivating others? And I'm just reading a book at the moment. It's called The Art of Quiet Influence. It's written by Jocelyn Davis, and it's a very recent book, just in the last year, and it says it's timeless wisdom for leading without authority. But what is so interesting about this, and also having lived in China, I've looked at some Chinese management philosophies as well. This actually incorporates learnings from Confucius, from Zhuangzi, from Sima Qian, from Mahatma Gandhi, from Buddha, from Mencius, Zen Master Durgan, and so it mentions Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. So I think there are some really lovely things in here that resonate with our shared Chinese history. Developing and that also helps you to develop cultural sensitivity to national and organizational culture. So we'll talk a bit about culture. How do you build this climate of creativity and innovation and leading to change? And then how do you get through the tough times? One of the models that we'll be looking at is the GROW model by Ken Blanchard. And the GROW model basically is talking about gaining knowledge, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, and also R is for reaching out to others. It's opening your world. And then the last one is walking towards wisdom. So there are a whole range of activities for the GROW model. Great leaders grow. So Blackboard, finding your way around Blackboard. Please play with that. You've already had a couple of programs now, so you should be able to find your way around that. And certainly we'll look at that more when we actually meet online. And I'm sure you're familiar with most of your classmates by now. So you are encouraged to keep a journal, so whether it's within Blackboard, reflective journal that's available just to you, you can keep it privately, or you have a notebook that you want to write things in. I have a journal, many journals, and I like to write in books that don't have lines on them. So just when I feel inspired, so it's not necessarily every day, is to write things down. I do have a separate diary, so I write down any meetings and schedules for the day, and then at the end of the day I look back to see what I've actually done, what have I spent my time on, and how much time I have spent on work. So in keeping some record of your personal responses, this will help you to prepare your assessment reports. So the assessment reports are about you, it's personal reflection, that you need to show evidence of your reading from the materials within the subject modules and a little bit wider. And it's okay to write I. Okay, but by keeping journal notes as well, it will encourage you to write and increase your self-awareness. I write in order to understand what I'm thinking. If I'm just talking, the words go round and round. So there will be activities and questions for each topic, and it's up to you to keep a record of your personal learning journey. So the assessments, there are 3. I'm just going to stop for half a second. The first one is due in week 4, second one week 7, and the final one in week 11. So you can see it's 20, 30, 50%, 500 words, 2,000, 3,000. You will be doing an instrument called the Gallup Strengths Finders, and I'm just crossing my fingers that that will be easily accessible for everybody through the links. So we have assessment 1, part A, part B, and assessment 2. So let's just look more closely. What does it mean to put something in the end of week 4 into week 7? So it's always the Friday by midnight, Beijing time. However, I always give you a grace period until 9 a.m. on Monday. So late penalty of 10% a day does not apply until 9 a.m. Monday. That does not mean that you start your assignment on the Saturday or Sunday after on the 2nd and 3rd of November. It's just as a contingency plan for those who have problems uploading or some crisis comes up at the last minute. If there is something that comes up that you cannot submit by the weekend following the deadline, then you need to put in an application for an extension with the documentation prior to prior to 1st of November. So you need to go to the assessment tab and look at your assessments. Just find your way through those. As I said, I will give detailed checklists on that, and we can discuss it in the live class. There is a marking rubric, so that means you can see the criterion and the standards for each criterion for that assessment. Make sure you look at the guidelines for reflective writing and work your way. So go to the Blackboard Module 1, Week 1 and 2 to be prepared in the next 2 weeks. Questions, I'm sure you've got 1,001. Just take it a step at a time. If you do have any questions, post them, ask the facilitator in the discussion forum, or you can send me a message in my class messages. This is one definition of leadership, is unleashing and wisely guiding energy towards meaningful, long-lasting results. So what do we mean by wisdom in looking at leaders? I want to stay away from politics if I can, but looking at leaders in business, Jack Ma, for example, how do they wisely guide energy towards meaningful, long-lasting results? You're a leader if you inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. So it's about the influence. And another perspective, everyone is a leader. So what's your learning journey for leadership, considering the past and the present, and how does that open the door for the future? That's our focus for the next 12 weeks. I'm looking forward to that. And so you might think about what do these definitions mean to you? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Think about that. Make a note in your personal reflection journal. So these are universal definitions of leadership. They don't depend on a position or a culture, can be applied at any level. They are action-oriented, It reflects positivity and can be applied to all situations. It doesn't prescribe what leaders do or how they do it. It's more a way of being. There are other definitions on Blackboard. So look in Blackboard at Module 1. Okay, so these are changing paradigms or changing ideas about leadership. So it's not the old emperor, the yellow emperor up there, just dictating to everybody what should be done and executing people who disagree with that. So the new paradigm is moving to more about collaboration. So it's empowering others to be confident. It's about interdependence with each other. It's about being inclusive of different diversity aspects. It's about thinking about systems so more holistically. It's about sharing knowledge. And it's not about you, your ego. You need to have some humility, and it's about supporting others. So sometimes you'll see definitions about the servant leadership. What does that mean? And how do we emotionally engage with others? So it's about emotional intelligence as well. There is a little video that you can look at on leadership and fellowship, and it really states, okay, you have a leader that for a particular action, but who is following that? So what happens with that? It's the importance of the first followers that will create a movement, if you like. But most of us as leaders don't have a lot of formal followers, but we may influence others to think and act in a different way, hopefully in a positive way. So becoming an effective leader, it develops your self-awareness. If you have a look at some models, role models, and some theories of effective leadership, and becoming more comfortable with ambiguity, with uncertainty and complexity, and being optimistic and hopeful. How can you build up the resilience for the tough times and the self-confidence to keep going? So we will be joining up, and we'll be forming pairs, and so need some mix of that. We'll talk about it more next week, but the guidelines for working with your partner is in the brief for assessment 1. So at the moment, just be aware of the structure of this program, the need to work with at least one other. Please go into the assessment briefs. Try and work your way through that. What does it mean? Put your questions into the discussion forums. In the discussion forums, aim to connect up with at least 5 classmates. You can do that on the discussion forum or via my class messages. And at least, have a conversation with at least 5 people. And then who do you think you could work with? And let me know via my class messages. So, first partner meetings, say should connect via Blackboard, and then, WeChat I know is easy for you. And spend about 30 minutes in those first meetings to listen without interrupting the other person. Learn a little bit about their briefly about their life story. Ask some questions to clarify more, find out more, and certainly after you've looked at this class and looked at materials online, maybe you can share the questions that you might have about this class, and what do you hope that you're going to get out of this class, and make sure you have contact details and agree on the best way of communicating with each other. You need to do that on a weekly basis. So happy learning, and So you need to be proactive, take a risk, don't be shy, and make sure that you have some interest in the discussion forums. So the benefits of doing this coaching and mentoring is reflecting and with your study buddy about the subject content, active listening. So you're doing some questioning, some probing, and you're practicing at being mentors. So mentors, coaching, giving and receiving feedback. Won't have a lot of, or maybe you'll have some regional cultural differences, but understand differences in organizational cultures as well. So I'm sure you'll find this really helpful. I have supported, I have facilitated this class previously. I find it very rich, very rewarding, and I love to see you grow from the first week to the last week. And so questions or comments, please put them into the discussion forums that ask the facilitators. So I'm just going to stop sharing there now, and where do I want to go to? Okay, here is the Blackboard. So please introduce yourself, reply to this entry. So this is my introduction and what you should do. And then the second discussion forum is, so here's the Ask the Facilitator where you can put some questions in. And then in module 1, who would you like to have as your boss? So who would you like to have as your boss? Why? Tell me something about the characteristics of that real life person. But it may not be someone who's living now, but someone who you really admire. If it is a Chinese person, please give the opinion characters for that. Tell me something about that person. So why do you think he or she would make a perfect boss? Okay, so that's for you to do. And then if you go to the subject overview page, I will always paste the materials at the bottom of the subject overview. So already I have the PowerPoint and I have the PDF, and the narrated PowerPoint I will also put on when it's downloaded. And each Wednesday at 6:30 Beijing time, 9:30 Sydney time, the Zoom link will be the same each week, and I'll open the link 15 minutes before, so you can check your video and audio links. When you come on, please put your name in, not in Chinese characters, but in Pinyin. So if your name is Huang, you will write Huang, and maybe and your first name as well. I'd like to be able to see your faces at least once during the hour that we are together. So I look forward to meeting you. I've had a lovely time with the other class of 170 students in the last trimester. So I look forward to meeting you again. Now, here you'll find journals. There will be, you can find the space for creating your own journal here. The dashboard, announcements. Okay, announcements will be, okay, I haven't put an announcement in yet. That's really strange. I thought I did. I thought I had also put my introduction there. So maybe I put it down. Yeah, let me see. Okay, I'll have to go back to that because I thought I had done my introduction, but it's not sitting there. I will redo it for you. The module 1. So you need to here go into the assessments and have a look at those. And then module 1, please review this as soon as you can get access to Blackboard. So module 1, introduction, learning to lead. Okay, so a lot of this material I've already just covered, but this will give you it will give you the detail of it. So of course in the PowerPoint PTs we can only give an outline of it. So there are different links there, and then if you click here you'll go to learning resources and activities. Okay, so you can see there are lots of leadership definitions there. So which one appeals to you? And changing paradigms or changing ways that we think about things, and the resources and learning activities. So if you click on any one of these, it should take you directly to the resource. Okay, so it's a video file there. There is a little game here that this is not so relevant to us in China. Some of the things might be relevant, but it's obviously designed for people in Australia. So don't worry too much about the diversity game. If you do the discussion one, introducing yourself and use the guidelines for that, that will be okay. So, yeah, okay, so that one is week 2. Of course, read forward into week 2. So if you can read as much as you can and click on as many links as you can in module 1.1 and start going into module 1.2, and you will be well on the road to our leadership journey for this trimester. So look forward to meeting you again. As I will open up the Zoom this Wednesday and see if it works. So,